And so how it's going to be is we have 45 minutes for the presentation today. You have about 30 minutes to talk about the portfolio and SlideRoom. Following that, you'll talk briefly about Knox, and then we'll have roughly 10 minutes to take the Q&A. All right. Let me just begin by talking a little bit about Next Genius and welcoming everyone. So hello and welcome all the attendees today who have joined us from across India. And thank you for joining us for the second call today, where Mr. Bruce Rash from Knox College is going to share about SlideRoom and portfolios. So without any further ado, Bruce, it's all over to you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Devesh. I'm going to go on ahead and share my screen here. Oh, there we go. Screen 2 and share.
Okay. Great.
All right. How are we looking on your end, Devesh?
Perfect. Perfect.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here again. My name is Bruce, and I work at a little place called Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about college portfolios and using different portfolio suites like SlideRoom. So let's get started. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm just going to dive right into it. Here's my contact information in case you might need it. Feel free to take a screenshot of this page or write any of this information down. I'm happy to get in contact with anybody later on if you have questions for me. So let's talk about portfolios. The important things to know. First of all, every single school that you're going to be applying to is going to have different expectations for what they want from your portfolio, whether that's an artistic portfolio or an architectural one. If it's theater or dance, make sure that you're familiar with what's expected of you. It's really, really essential because getting the details wrong can mean that your portfolio isn't accepted in the review process. Knowing that, it's important to plan ahead and manage your time. If you're applying to more schools and planning to submit more portfolios, that's going to mean that you're going to need to commit more time because you'll need to do the due diligence and take the time to familiarize yourself with all of those different requirements. And of course, when in doubt, email your admission counselor because we really can help you to figure out sometimes these very arcane and incomprehensible details that we think are really straightforward, but often really aren't. And if we're not the person who can help you, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be able to point you in the right direction and help you find the person who can. So if you're not sure if you should submit a portfolio, there's a few things that you can ask yourself. First of all, some universities do require portfolios to enter certain programs. We'll look at a university later who requires portfolios to join their colleges of art and architecture. So if you're interested in joining one of those programs, you should check to see if those are required for the universities that you're applying to. Other schools like Knox, instead of having a requirement to submit a portfolio, we offer scholarships for students who demonstrate exceptional talent in their field, whether that's art or something else. And then of course, it's important too, because you can make a mark on the people who are reviewing your portfolios. At Knox, all of our portfolios are reviewed by the professors in the department who are actually going to be teaching you should you come to Knox. And you'll find that that's the case at a lot of different institutions. So if you're able to put together a portfolio that's really impressive, you may actually get an email from a professor in that department at that college saying, hey, your work is fantastic. I would love to chat more with you. So that's a great way to, or a great reason to submit a portfolio as well. So let's look at some examples. So here at Knox, we actually use an internal portfolio upload system. So it's a totally unique process to us. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. I'm going to get out of PowerPoint, and I'm actually going to come over to our instructions. Oh, if I can get this guy out of the way. So we have instructions for each different kind of portfolio that you'll submit. I'm using visual art as an example for most of these, just because it's simple and straightforward for the most part. Submit a digital portfolio consisting of 10 to 15 artworks. Please do not submit art done more than 2 years ago. Include all of this information for each one that you are submitting. And then in addition, provide these written components. Pretty straightforward. File sizes that are accepted, scholarship guidelines, notifications. This stuff is all really pretty straightforward. I've already opened up my portfolio on the Knox website. I'll show you how I got here. Nope. Just for the record, my middle name is not actually Lewin. It's just a placeholder. So this is what happens when you finish submitting your application to Knox. So you don't turn in a portfolio until after your application is submitted. And I'm going to come down all the way down here to where it says portfolio and edit my portfolio. And I can just upload media straight through here. It asks me to submit scholarship submission form, to fill out all of this information here about the works that I'm submitting, just like we went over before. I'm not actually going to take the time to do this right here today. And it's as simple as selecting the files that I want to upload. I have these lovely MS Paint drawings that I did earlier today. Start upload. Okay. And then once I'm done, it'll take me over to all of the things that I've uploaded. It's still processing the thumbnail here. And I can include a title, the year, the size, the medium, all of this information that it's asked for in the guidelines. And I can also indicate if it's a representative work, which means that it's the piece that I'm the most proud of. And obviously this one is. So I'm going to update it here. And that's really the whole process for submitting your portfolio through Knox. Once we're done here, we can click continue and submit. Ta-da! So that's Knox, and that's pretty straightforward. But let's look at another school. So I'm actually looking at Washington University in St. Louis. This is an institution that Knox partners with for a few different programs, and we're also pretty close friends with some of the admissions staff over there. But they are a larger university, and so they do require portfolios if you're submitting works in the arts. And you'll see here that we've come down to the portfolio section of the Common application. And it's going to redirect me to SlideRoom. Different institutions like Washington University will sometimes use SlideRoom for various different portfolios. In this case, I'm doing another art portfolio, and it's going to ask me some questions just to make sure that the applications are paired up correctly. And SlideRoom is incredibly intuitive. It's a great resource. Again, we're just going to come in here, add media. We can upload from our computer, from Dropbox. We can even copy media over from other SlideRoom applications that we have if you're applying to multiple schools that are using SlideRoom. So again, I'm going to upload 2 pieces here, these beautiful, beautiful works of art that I've done. And right here as I'm submitting it, a happy boat. This is a digital medium. It's 1:1 roughly dimensions, and it was completed 8/15/2020. Additional details. This is a very happy boat. I love it. Changes saved. Great. Continue to the next file. Malcolm becomes a dog. Medium digital. MS Paint. Dimensions roughly again 1:1. Date completed 8/15/2020. Additional details. Malcolm is not usually a dog, but today he is. Can't even spell Malcolm. There it is. And when I click done, that's it. My portfolio is about ready. I'm going to click next. I must provide 8 more media items. I don't have 8 here today, but once you're done, you can go on ahead and click next, and then it should allow you to submit. But it's really pretty straightforward using SlideRoom. And it's important, again, that you pay attention to the instructions here, which I'm fairly certain I did not meet the requirements for Washington University's portfolios. But these are the entire instructions here. Choose 10 to 20 pieces of your best and most recent work. You can submit your portfolios 3 different ways. I just took you through the digital way, but they also offer in-person portfolio submissions, or at least they did before COVID-19. So I hope that that's a little bit helpful. Maybe it's completely unhelpful, but we're going to go on ahead and move forward. Of course, I can't remember how to start a slideshow from a certain spot. So just some tips and some common mistakes that I see on my side. It's important to submit your best work, but not to be too self-critical. They allow you to submit 10 to 20 or 10 to 15 or 5 to 15, whatever the case may be for your school, different pieces of work, because we want to see a wide range of the things that you have created. So submitting your best work is really, really important, but don't be too hard on yourself. What you think is a great piece of work and what your professors are going to think is your best piece of work is 2 totally different things. If you're doing a theater or a dance submission or a music submission, try to avoid submitting group performances. It can be really, really hard for professors to know who you are in those, especially in dance and theater. I see a lot of submissions where people will submit all of the scenes that they were in a certain show, but it's not totally clear who you are, even if you are the one person who's showing up in all of those scenes. So make sure that you pay attention to the guidelines closely. I know that for Knox, for our dance and theater auditions and our music auditions, we ask that you're the only person visible in the video that we're receiving. And that's because we want to be able to assess you as an artist, not the group that you're performing with. I'll also say that not everybody needs to submit a portfolio. If you don't have a portfolio of works to submit, that's okay. If you're applying to a college or a university that requires it for the program that you're entering into, that's another story. But you might ask yourself if you're actually a good fit for that program, if you don't already have a portfolio of works to submit. And then, of course, ask for help when you need it. If it's one of your mentors who's helped you in this, in your art or your performances, or a teacher in that area, or even an admission counselor like me, we are so happy to support you and to help you out as you're going through all of these different processes. Was that about 20 minutes? I think it was. About 15. Is it all right with you, Devesh, if I move on and we'll take a little bit more time for Q&A?
Sure, that works. Yeah, in fact, we started receiving some questions, and I think it makes more sense that we can answer specific questions.
Yeah, right now? We can do that now?
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Great. Let's do it before we move on.
Okay, so shall I start reading out the questions and you'll answer? Or?
Yes, please. I don't have them open right now for me.
Okay, so a student wants to know whether they can submit a dance portfolio even if their intended major is not dance.
Yes, absolutely. So again, it's going to depend on the college or the university. So make sure that you're aware of the expectations for you when you submit a portfolio. Some universities will say, yes, please submit a portfolio if you want to. If you're a dancer, we'll offer you scholarship money, even if you're not a dance major. But sometimes they'll have a little caveat, right? They'll say, yes, well, you don't have to be a dance major in order to submit a dance portfolio, but you do have to be on our dance team for 4 years, or you do have to do this thing or that thing. So again, reading the instructions and understanding the expectations are super important. I would say that most schools are going to have an expectation if you're submitting music or dance or theater auditions to be a part of those programs, if they're attaching scholarship money, or if that's a part of your offer of admission. In Knox's case, we don't, but I think that we're more of an exception than a rule.
Okay, great. Are the portfolios only for performing arts students? Do students in other majors need to submit a portfolio as well, like someone who's planning to study economics or business?
Mhm. You don't have to. It really depends on the school and you. For example, if you're interested in studying economics, but you also do art on the side and you want your admission counselors to see that side of you, and maybe you're planning on taking a few art courses just for fun, there's definitely no harm in submitting that art portfolio. Again, making sure that there's no expectations attached should you do so. So, and especially in Knox's case, we love to see art portfolios from economics students. We think that it's a great way to show that you're a well-rounded human being, but it's not required and you don't have to do it. If you're really firmly, I am all about economics, then you don't need to submit a portfolio. Um,
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there's typically not an equivalent to a portfolio for students in those fields. So there's not supplemental work that you can submit in economics, for example. We just don't have, in most cases, most universities don't have the infrastructure developed to recognize work that you've done already in that way. And in part, that's a side effect of the American education system, because most American high schoolers are taking art and theater and dance, but they're not taking economics courses. They might have an pretty elementary understanding of economics, but it's not considered a core subject or an extracurricular activity here in the United States. And that's why. I don't know
Okay.
if that answers the question.
Yes, yes, it does. I think, yeah, we've covered it well. Okay. What is the difference between a resume and a portfolio?
This is a great question. So a resume or a CV, a curriculum vitae, is like a piece of paper or two pieces of paper, really detailing in a list format your accomplishments in a way that's very easy to digest, in a way that at a glance somebody can observe your work. A
Mhm.
portfolio, on the other hand, is something that's intended for people to take a longer more engaged look at. Somebody will be spending, 2, 3, sometimes even 5 or 10 minutes with each piece of artwork or each dance submission that you've provided. They're really going to be spending a great deal of time getting to know your work by observing your work. Whereas on a resume or a CV, the art is not present. There's not going to be a video of you dancing. There's not going to be an embedded piece of your artwork. Rather, it's going to say, I have done art for the last 4 years. Here are some pieces that I'm proud of. And it's just going to detail the title and the material and the size. And then if people are curious and want to learn more about those works, that's when they'll go over to your portfolio. So the resume really is more like a cheat sheet, and the portfolio is more of the deep dive. I don't know if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I got it. I think that makes sense. I would also put it across like, again, a resume is only a list of your accomplishments, but a portfolio is actually a proof of your activities or your performances or things like that, right?
Yeah, that's a great
Okay.
way to put it, Divesh. Thanks.
And can we submit YouTube links to videos in our portfolio? Do students do that?
Yeah, again, it's going to depend upon the institution. At Knox, you totally can. At Washington University, I'm not totally sure. I don't think that you can because they only submit, they only accept art and architecture. So they're going to be still images that they're expecting from you. Um, so again, it's going to depend on what kind of portfolio you're submitting and the institution that you're submitting to. So if you are applying to a dance program, I would expect that YouTube links will be more than acceptable. But if you're submitting YouTube videos to people, don't just do that because it's easier than uploading a video. Because you want to make sure that the YouTube video you're submitting meets all of the criteria for the institution that you're applying to. And each one is going to have different instructions, and you'll likely end up needing to change that video anyway. Most of the time when I see a YouTube video submitted, it's a group performance, it's a lot of people, it's not clear who I'm looking at, and so I can't really do anything with that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Okay. So, Bruce, how many videos or dance performances is too much?
That's a great question. Again, it's really going to depend upon the institution. Make sure that you're following their guidelines closely. And I'll actually show you what Knox's guidelines in dance look like. So if I can come back over here for dance, we're pretty explicit. Your audition should include 2 short dance pieces, each no more than 1.5 to 2 minutes in length, representing a range of styles. Make sure that the videos are only of you and not of you presenting in a group piece. So we're really, really explicit about what we want from you. And you'll find that that's pretty common. If the place is not explicit about what they want, I would encourage you to email your admission counselor. But generally, I would say keep in mind your admission counselors are busy people, and the people who are reviewing your portfolios are busy people. Show them your best work in as short of a time as possible, because they really do, unfortunately, not have time to sit and watch 10 to 20 minutes of video of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Does Knox also accept creative writings as a part of their portfolio?
Yes, we do, and a lot of places do. So Knox is, of course, famed for its creative writing program, and we love to receive creative writing portfolios. So in writing, we accept them in all different areas, and you can actually submit them in more than one different area, as long as your total work doesn't exceed 20 pages. So poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, journalism, playwriting, critical essay, all of these different areas. These don't have to be new pieces of writing. They can be things that you've written already, as long as they're relatively recent.
Okay. What is the role of a portfolio in the college application? Question 1. And question 2 is, will not submitting a portfolio affect my profile?
Yeah, so the role of submitting a portfolio, it kind of goes back to this idea of holistic application review. This is something we're really big on in the United States. And I would say that the smaller the university is, or the more prestigious a university is, the more it's going to matter that you submit a portfolio. Because it's going to give us a more well-rounded understanding of who you are as an individual, especially if, again, if you're intending in majoring in one of these areas that you're submitting a portfolio for. I don't think anybody is expecting you to submit an art portfolio if you plan to major in economics and have never picked up a paintbrush in your life. But they do give us a clearer sense of who you are as a person. If you're not submitting a portfolio, there are other great ways to do this, like doing an interview, sitting down and chatting with your admission counselor, participating in college events that are happening, etc. And then
Right.
remind me of question 2.
Sorry?
Remind me of part 2 of that question. Or did I answer it already?
Second. Will not submitting a portfolio affect my profile?
No, I would say no. Unless the college or university you're applying to explicitly requires one, I don't think that it's going to negatively impact your application if you don't submit one. Of course, again, it'll help, especially if you're applying to an especially competitive or an especially difficult program at a larger university. Then it certainly helps to submit one. But I would say if you're applying to a small college like Knox, or many of the Next Genius partner schools like Beloit, I would say that it's not going to negatively impact your application.
Okay.
But ask your admission counselor.
Right. So how would you see a portfolio which has someone singing, but in a different language, not in English?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think that the language matters so much. I think that especially professors who are experts in vocal music are going to recognize that it's all about your voice, not necessarily the words. Yeah. And in fact, many of the pieces that you'll be performing, if you choose to join a college or university choir, they're not going to be in English anyway. They're going to be in Latin or German or French. And so it doesn't matter what language you're singing in. It matters that you're demonstrating your voice in a meaningful and a captivating way.
Okay. Yes, I think that makes perfect sense. So if can someone submit 2 portfolios, a portfolio in dance as well as a portfolio in poetry, let's say?
At Knox, you absolutely can. I would say don't submit multiple portfolios just for the sake of making your application look more impressive in air quotes.
Right.
I find that a lot of the time students will submit 3 or 4 portfolios, but 3 out of the 4 are not very high quality. So make sure that it's something that you're genuinely passionate about before you submit multiple portfolios. Because if you're not putting the energy into both of them, it can actually hurt your application rather than help it. Knox accepts multiple portfolios, not every school will. So make sure that you're in touch with your admission counselors and ask them before you plan on submitting more than one.
Great. Where can someone submit a thesis or a research project?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not every college or university accepts theses, research projects as a part of the application process. At Knox, we don't consider this to be a part of your portfolio, but rather we would consider it an additional writing sample. And I'll show you where you can upload that for Knox. If you're not sure for another institution, I would say email your admission counselor. Again, I know you're getting tired of hearing that answer, but it's the truth because unfortunately, every school is so different that there's not a singular process to doing these things. But at Knox, it's super easy. I just come back into this port or this little area that I have here, upload materials, and I'm going to make the type an additional writing sample, and I'll choose the file and upload, and that'll send it straight to my admission counselor where they can see it.
Okay. If someone wants to just do a minor in theater, do they necessarily have to submit a portfolio for that?
It's a great question. So at Knox, we don't require portfolios for any subject, no matter what you want to major in or minor in. So if you just want to minor in theater, you don't have to submit a portfolio in theater, even if you wanted to major someday. But again, it's going to depend on the university. If you're going to a school that has a very well-renowned theater program, chances are that regardless of whether you want to major or minor in theater, they'll require you to submit a portfolio. Knox has a really awesome theater program, even for majors and minors, and we don't require one. But if you're really, really, really focused in on getting that name brand theater experience, or you really want to get an experience where you're among really elite other performers, it matters to you that the people that you're performing with have tons of experience in theater and have a great portfolio, then it may be that you're applying to colleges and universities that require it.
Okay. I think we have covered all the questions broadly. So
Okay.
maybe we can move on to the next section of the presentation. Would you like to share a little bit about Knox College?
Yes, of course. The obligatory telling you about Knox segment of the presentation. And I can never remember how to just enter presentation view. Here we go. So let's talk briefly about Knox. So Knox College is a place that's full of people from all around the world. We are a truly international community, and I think that if that's what you're looking for, we're a great place to study. We represent 49 different countries around the world and 45 US states and territories. 19% of our students are international students. And on top of that, 32% of our students from the United States consider themselves to be people of color or not white, basically. And so what that means is that you have a lot of people with very different worldviews from all around the world and all around the United States, sharing their opinions and their ideas with you in the classroom. Because most of our courses are focused on dialogue here at Knox. It's not just about what your professor thinks, it's about what you think as well. And so I think that that's a really important piece of what we do here. We were, of course, founded in the year 1837 by anti-slavery radicals, people who thought that the institution of slavery was morally wrong. And back in 1837, that was a very unpopular idea. And so those folks, they traveled westward from New York State to rural Illinois, what was then the American frontier, to found Knox College. Diversity has been a core part of what we do here at Knox since our very founding. We're one of the very first institutions in the United States to educate both women and people of color. We're actually the second institution at all in the US to educate women, the first one being Oberlin in Ohio. And we're where every single voice is valued. And what we mean by that is we are very much a student-driven community. Students serve on every committee at the college, from the committees that approve the curriculum to the committees that decide where the money at our college goes and what programs get expanded. We really care about what students think of what's going on here at Knox. And so their opinions are highly valued and given a platform. Just some basic numbers, if you're curious. We're about 1,200 undergraduate students. We have no graduate programs at Knox. We represent 18 NCAA Division III athletic teams. We have over 100 student-run clubs and organizations, including many cultural clubs for different areas around the world and international clubs. Again, representing 45 US states and territories and 49 countries. 32% of our students are students of color, and 19% of our students are international students. Just some quick statistics about where our students are going and what they're doing after they're graduating. They're working at places like the Anti-Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee in Washington, D.C., Epic Systems Corporation, Google, IBM, Motorola. They're working at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, Teach for America, World Vision, which is a nonprofit based out of Thailand. They're attending graduate school. Over half of Knox's alumni will wind up in grad school within 3 years of graduating. And they're going to some of the most elite graduate institutions because Knox prepares them well for those programs, whether it's a master's or a PhD. And many of our students do enroll directly in PhD programs straight out of leaving Knox. So whether that's at MIT or Yale or New York or the University of Illinois or Washington University in St. Louis, they're all awesome places to attend. And of course, our students are doing things like becoming teachers and attorneys, professors, business consultants, writers, stockbrokers, programmers, engineers, you name it, we pretty much have a Knox alum doing it.